Hello everyone, we are back with another off-season video. This actually was supposed to come out yesterday, but you know, Brad Stevens just had to do the unthinkable. Still, despite that mess, the thoughts of the Lakers free agency for me still remains, and that is, I love what they're doing. Now, initially, it started out pretty terrible, I'm not gonna lie, like I expected them to re-sign Austin Reeves, but then as we transition, especially in the late month of June, and boy oh boy, I was starting to do a little bit of questioning, like I'm sure the rest of the NBA community was. We all knew they had a ton of cap space left, yet they decided to let Marcus Smart walk, they decided to let Luke Kennard go to Phoenix. All signs were pointing to Rui Hachimura leaving as well, and on top of that, LeBron will not return. This obviously left everyone with the thought of, who are they planning to sign? And man, yesterday they went crazy. First is that massive sign and trade for Walker Kessler. They had to give up an unprotected 2031 first, some first round pick swaps in what I believe was 2028 and 2029. Then they announced they're signing Sandro Mamukelashvili to a 4-year contract, same with Quentin Grimes, and then last but not least, Colin Sexton on an underrated 2-year deal. Kind of funny to see the pattern. You get a player option, you get a player option, you get a player option. But when I look at the talent that they have collected and how they fit, honestly, couldn't have been more perfect. Let's start with the elephant in the room, Walker Kessler. Okay, so I was a little bit disappointed that Utah gave up Walker because I was so intrigued of what a Lowry, Triple J, and Kessler lineup will look in an 82-game season. But alas, that's not the case. At least Ace Bailey will be in the starting lineup for them. But for the Lakers side, I feel like two things can be true. Did they give up a lot here? Absolutely. You know, it could look really scary in the mid-2030s. But for the type of caliber of player that Walker Kessler is and what he can provide, I would say it's worth it. To me, Walker Kessler feels like the player to really put all the chips on the table. So yeah, in a way, I can understand people claiming that Utah won this trade, especially since they can flip those picks for other valuable assets. But for me, the shot blocking ability of Walker Kessler, the fact that he could have like an effect similar to Rudy Gobert or Donovan Clingan, because we all know how many players Luka and Austin Reeves are allowing to get by. And the offensive rebounding is so crucial. Just that physical presence inside. I mean, his post-up game is not too reliable, but he is absolutely an alley-oop threat. Unlike Ayton, he won't have butterfingers for hands. Like seriously, this is an A+ fit. The only problem I can see with Walker Kessler is the availability. Maybe if Pelinka gave up those same amount of picks for a more reliable big man in terms of health, I don't think this trade will be as criticized. Unfortunately though, for Walker, that is the case. He only played 5 games last season. Granted, he looked absolutely amazing, but as we all know, that is a very short sample. And no doubt, even if it's just for 1 season out of his 3, it does put some doubt in your mind. But from my perspective, I feel like that situation is sort of a flash in the pan. Now, if we're talking about him playing only around 40 to 50 games this upcoming season, then yes, we can absolutely have this conversation of him possibly being a more injury-prone player. But as of now, I'll be fairly surprised if something similar happens for this upcoming season. I wouldn't say he would play all 82 games, but 60 to 70 game range is definitely feasible. And again, when you have a guy like Luka Doncic on your team, that will go smooth as butter. It's much more different than playing with Keontae George, I'll tell you that much. Actually, I don't mean that as a shot as Keontae. He's been hooping, but come on man, Luka's playmaking, not just on the pick and roll now that I think about it, on the pick and pop as well. Again, very limited sample size, but his 3-point shots look really promising to start the year off. I'm not sure how much JJ is going to lean into that aspect, but if the shot stays pure, then that just makes him even more dangerous. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like he also has more speed than a lot of people give him credit for. I mean, myself included, when I initially looked at him and his frame, I was like, I'm not sure how mobile he can really be, but no, he can really run down the floor. He's not the fastest, obviously, but if you're going in transition, or if you're trying to stop someone in transition, he's definitely capable of that task, running up and down the court. Now, things do get a little bit tougher when you look at the rest of the loaded Western Conference. So many skilled big men in Nikola Jokic, Alperen Sengun, Victor Wembanyama, and is Walker Kessler capable of not stopping them exactly? I mean, that would be best case scenario, but just doing enough to slow them down. Again, he is a big body, so I don't expect him to be completely back down, which does give me the impression that he'll be fine against certain type of matchups like Alperen Sengun, Mark Williams, and I have to reiterate, just his length is enough to deter most lob opportunities, but I can see him being limited in terms of guarding pick and pop bigs. It's not like he'll face them in every single matchup. They are a really rare archetype, but yeah, because of those tricky stretch fives and their ability to just be more versatile than ever, lateral quickness is something I would rather tend to to focus on in the offseason if I was Kessler. Also, another thing I like to point out now that we're on the topic of slight worries, his drop coverage can be proved to work against him. Not due to his own fault though, but rather due to some personnel, because one of the best ways to combat drop coverage is shooting threes, especially off of dribble handoffs. I still have flashbacks of Lopez being torched by the 2023 Miami Heat in his drop coverage. And you know, if opposing teams target Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves on those dribble handoffs, chances are a lot of space is going to be left open. You do wonder how much more limited Kessler can become in those type of scenarios. So if you want to put those negatives out there as the reason stating why the Kessler acquisition isn't worth it, I can understand. It's just that to me, those flaws don't really compare as much to the amount of benefits he'll provide you. And it's not like he had the best personnel in Utah either, with the purpose of tanking and how often guys like Filipowski and Keontae George get beat on defense. He had his work cut out for him, and I know LA's roster construction isn't really defensive oriented. JJ can still put out a lineup that has Jared Vanderbilt, Quentin Grimes, Adou Thiero, like it could still work. Also, when we look at the picks given up, they definitely do not match the timeline of Luka's player option, because I believe that's in the 2028 to 2029 season. For such a special talent as is Luka Magic, for such a generational talent as is Luka Magic, you have to do as much as you can to convince him that he has to stay, you know? Who wouldn't, honestly? And who knows when you're gonna have that much cap flexibility ever again. I feel like this is the most money in free agency that the Lakers could have ever had in a while. As much as I understand the critics constantly asking how much did these guys pay for someone like Kessler, I feel like they also should be aware of the fact of what if the Lakers don't cash in on this opportunity, because there have been numerous instances, doesn't matter which team, you can bring up the history of just, dang, we really missed out on that guy. We had the assets, we have special talent on our roster that we have to go in win now mode for, and we just couldn't capitalize on, because I also know that is a situation that has happened way too many times, and it has proved to work before. LA bought in on Anthony Davis, they got a championship. And I feel like this is the similar type of urgency that Pelinka and co are trying to achieve. And especially when we look at the rest of the free agency signings, all of them look more beneficial and just reinstates more confidence in my belief in this Lakers squad. Sandro Mamukelashvili coming off of his career season. And yeah, we might worry about some shooting dips. I mean, it's one of the most consistent concerning patterns in Lakers history. However, given how much his stroke was pure, not just Toronto, but in the prior years with San Antonio, I just have a hard time it will just suddenly dip. Another thing I want to mention about Mamu being a positive is that he would actually be a proper forward this time in the Lakers system. As good as he was offensively, mostly in Toronto, he would have to be a small ball 5, but for the most part, he's going to play alongside either Kessler or Ayton, and honestly, why shouldn't he? I can't think of a much better opportunity to really have him in his proper role and possibly expand upon it. But just him being a reliable option out there, spacing the floor, giving tons of space for those Luka and Kessler alley-oops, yeah, I would say that's 100% worth it. And speaking of spacing the floor, Quentin Grimes. It is a bit of an overpay, $15 million per year. That's a little bit too steep, especially when we look at some of his tape from the previous season, but I feel like we have to take into account just the role will be much more different than what it was in Philly, because he also had to take an increased amount of ball handling responsibility. Obviously not the main ball handler, but because Philly's guard depth was just horrendous to say, for a lack of better words, especially after the Jared McCain trade. But now he won't have that conundrum anymore. If anything, he might look similar to his version in Dallas, and from what I've seen, especially in that Boston-Philadelphia postseason series, he definitely has maintained his defensive ability. And as the cherry on top for the ball handling responsibility Grimes doesn't have to bear anymore, it's not just Luka and AR, but Colin Sexton, boy oh boy. To me, this is such an underrated deal. This could be the steal of the entire free agency. Getting someone of Sexton's caliber for just 2 years, $19.2 million? Dude, I thought he was worth way more than that. This is a quality candidate for 6th man of the year. For his offensive back, I feel like he has it all. Drives to the rim, mid-range ability, consistent 3-point shooting, and the most important trait of his never-ending hustle. Bro, as much as I love Luka, sometimes with his constant frustration with the referees, not having the right sort of energy, I mean this could honestly apply to the rest of the Lakers team. You know, they get a little bit discouraged when things are not going their way. It could be contagious. You will never find that problem with Colin Sexton. I mean, if you will, I would be highly concerned with what's going on around him, because even after all this time in the NBA, he never lost that urge. Like, that's enough of the shot making ability to really spark momentum, get a run, and hey, even if his shot's not falling falling, he'll still dive after loose balls like his life depends on it. The young Bulls defense, I will admit, it can be hit or miss. Sometimes I can see him being able to successfully stay in front, and other times it does leave some to be desired. However, I feel like his energy and hustle just straight up makes out for it. I'm not saying because of his intensity he's going to turn into a Davion Mitchell or anything, but you can totally trust me when I claim that he is absolutely going to do whatever it takes to not lose the defensive matchup. So yeah man, I'm just loving the overall free agency that LA has had. Yes, it can be kind of underwhelming looking at the forward position, especially since Vando is limited offensively, Laravia is very inconsistent. However, I do propose this factor, which I mean I guess can be a little bit pushed to a side if Lakers go out and sign another wing. But as of this moment, Adou Thiero's just potential of what he can provide, to me that is an important factor. Just him stepping up, making an impact, filling up the hole in the wing department. Could be anything, his defense, his rebounding. Hopefully he would also work on a shot in the offseason. If he just provides one or two of those traits on a consistent basis, what a steal, especially for a second-year player. So there you have it. Those are all of my thoughts on this Lakers free agency. It's no huge secret that I am a big fan of these type of moves. But yeah, that concludes this long video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Did you think it was a win, or did you think they went overboard? And I'll see you next time.